Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here, and in today's video we have The Bad Batch Episode 6, Season 1, titled Decommissioned, breakdown, review, and I'll have some theories and predictions towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, on towards the video here. Of course, I must mention there are spoilers for The Bad Batch Episode 6, and as well as previous episodes before then, and even a little bit in the Clone Wars Season 7. We're going to be touching a little bit on that, as we got some pretty interesting appearances here in this episode. So, without a further ado, let's get right into it. Of course, right off the bat, there can be many mixed feelings about this episode, but just getting a general gist of how this episode went, I think in some manners, in some ways, it, for one thing, I think completed some arcs that were left in the Clone Wars Season 7 that we didn't quite get to finish, and it really did kind of, in some way, did provide some character development for Omega as well as some other characters here. I'm starting to notice more and more throughout all these different episodes, Omega's really becoming one of the members of the Bad Batch and really finding her place in the Bad Batch. And it's just small, simple things like really joining them on missions. And in this episode, we got some good character development with her. She was training with her bow, and she did go with them on the mission. Of course, the mission was supplied by Sid, who we saw in the previous episode of the Bad Batch, as they, or she, did actually provide them with a mission, a bounty mission, to go get a Rancor. The Bad Batch are sent to the planet Corellia, and we know Corellia from Solo: A Star Wars Story. It's Han Solo's home world. As we go on, we see some also really cool and interesting developments here as it progresses on with the story of Wrecker furthermore, which I was really excited to see. The Bad Batch are sent on a mission to retrieve a tactical droid. Now, they want the tactical droid here for Sid, more specifically, in order to learn about how to defeat the clones that are now working for the Empire. Droids pretty much are able to see and sense and learn on what their enemies are doing and what tactics they are using, hence the name Tactical Droid. This facility that they are at is really interesting and really cool and gives me some Mandalorian vibes as well. After sneaking their way in, the Bad Batch are simply easily to locate the tactical droid head, but of course are stopped by some trouble. And some trouble, I mean real trouble. The Martinez sisters that we saw in Season 7 of the Clone Wars. Now, not too many people really enjoyed their arc that we saw in the Clone Wars. It was a complete arc in some senses, I think, but the arc just overall left a bad taste, I feel like, in people's mouths. So I'm kind of glad in some ways that we got to see the Martinez sisters once again in the Bad Batch. It provides some closure here for them. Also, a really interesting thing I kind of saw throughout this episode is how hard it is really to defeat the police droids. I never really thought they were all in all that difficult to defeat, especially on Corellia, but that does us some difference as we do see the Bad Batch in some manners, in some ways, struggle taking them down. And that could be, of course, because they are easily outnumbered by a long shot. And then from there on out, after retrieving the tactical droid, it's pretty much a game of tag between the Martinez sisters and the Bad Batch as they just throw around the head of the tactical droid because that's really all they need for it, and it's just pretty much a game of tag. However, of course, aside from that, they do in some manners team up in order to help out each other and get their way out of there. Okay, aside from all of that, let's talk about one of the most exciting parts about this episode, one of the most chilling parts of this episode. Wrecker finally hits his head one too many times as Order 66, I guess, is officially kicking into his head, into his brain, and is really locking in and taking him over, both really rather more mentally and physically. I say that in the manner of having it take over both of them or both parts of him mentally, because that's what the inhibitor chip does, it mentally takes over them, but in this manner for Wrecker especially, I feel like it's taking him over physically in the manner, I think in these last couple of episodes, we've been seeing him and his mutations that he has being a clone, as a mutated clone, it's just kind of starting to slow down, and small things like him running slower or not being able to take too many hits, I think his strength-wise is pretty much the same, however. So after hitting his head once again, it pretty much knocks him out cold, especially after he gets shot here a couple of times from the police droids. Now, of course, myself, I just got absolute chills during this whole entire scene as we do hear Crosshair's voice say the words, "Good soldiers follow orders." I'm pretty sure that we do hear Wrecker himself also say the words, "Good soldiers follow orders," at least trying to say it. So I think that the chip is now officially clicking into his brain, and it's really taking him over now. There's been a lot of anticipation, theories, and predictions building up towards this whole moment that we've all been waiting for to see in this season, and now it's only a matter of time until he turns on his brothers, or worse, Omega. However, he's eventually able to pull through and get up and go help out his brothers. Now, this doesn't mean that he's okay and that the chip hasn't affected him. I think that mentally the chip has overtaken him and that it's really going to leave a mark on him this time, that it's officially happened now at this point. It's really just a matter of time and how that this chip is going to be affecting him. Much like we saw with Crosshair in the first episode of The Bad Batch, they can up the power of this inhibitor chip and how much it's taking over him and how much it's making him execute orders. And while Wrecker's able to help out his brothers and really provide a lot of, I guess, firepower towards them, they're able to use the tactical droid to summon an army of the dead, of the old battle droids that are being decommissioned there, which I thought was an absolutely crazy, amazing scene. I was just freaking out over that. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Of course, after all of that, the Bad Batch and the Martinez sisters are able to make a run for it and go to the ship and run to safety. Now here's a really interesting theory or prediction, or something that's going to lead into the theories and predictions here. Thank you so much if you're still watching, and especially here if you're staying for the theories and the predictions. Here on the Martinez ship, we do see a familiar droid, which I quite honestly didn't catch right off the bat, but that's actually R7, which used to be Ahsoka Tano's old droid that we saw throughout the Clone Wars, all the way from Season 1 to Season 7. Of course, it's a nice little nod towards the Clone Wars and Ahsoka Tano possibly appearing in the future episodes of The Bad Batch. I haven't quite honestly made a theory or a prediction video on that quite yet. I've been meaning to, and what we could possibly see from her if she does appear in The Bad Batch. So of course hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that. Other than all of that, they're actually able to, presume and rescue some manner of what was left of the tactical droid as Hunter gives it to one of the Martinez sisters. Now, we're not completely 100% positive and sure who exactly the Martinez sisters are working for, but there's a couple of options that we can presume. And one of them is the Rebellion, or the Republic, or, the rebellion that is now or once used to be the Republic. Of course, however, telling from what we saw at the end of the episode, with them pulling up the hologram and some saying to R7 to summon him, so we can presume it's going to be a him rather than a her. A lot of theories and predictions out there that I've seen so far, including myself, would presume it would to be Ahsoka, seeing that they do have her old droid. Now, there's another thing that we could presume from this. It is actually Ahsoka, and who's with Ahsoka could possibly be the one and only Captain Rex. Now, we do know that Rex is supposed to sometime here appear in the upcoming episodes of The Bad Batch, especially presuming that he's in the trailer. Now, aside from all of that, there's a couple of other people that we could presume who the Rafa and Trace are trying to contact. One of them is Bail Organa, who we do know is one of the early leaders for the Rebellion. Of course, it's really difficult to tell, and it wasn't the clearest look at who the person was wearing, like what their clothing was, and from a distance it does kind of resemble Bail Organa's clothing. Aside from that, that's a really common one I've heard before, but of course it could always be the good old trustworthy Saw Gerrera. He's pretty much appeared in any Star Wars media taking place, especially during this time period, and we've already seen him in the first episode of The Bad Batch as well, so it could very well be him as well. Now, moving on to a few more interesting theories and predictions and speculations of who exactly it could possibly be. It very well could be the one and only Boba Fett. Now, a lot of things many people, including myself, have noticed about this show so far is that it seems to be setting up quite a few things for the Book of Boba Fett. That's something that we're getting later this year. And of course, we've already seen Fennec Shand appear in The Bad Batch as well, so it very well could be that Fennec Shand is working for Boba Fett, which leads me to the final speculation on who it could possibly be, which would be Fennec Shand. Now, of course, I already mentioned it was referred to as a he that the Martinez sisters are contacting, but like I much said with the Ahsoka and Rex one, it very well could just be that they're contacting Boba Fett, who very well could be linked to Fennec Shand. Now, they'd contact Boba Fett, who Boba Fett would then send Fennec Shand after them, and with that location. Of course, there's a few other theories and predictions that are very well out there, and I do like to cover them in a few separate other videos, so do be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss them. Of course, it was a very, very well put together episode. I really enjoyed it. It was very fun and action-packed, of course, like many of the other episodes, and it didn't feel like a filler whatsoever. Of course, I hate to use the term filler because normally it's used in the wrong context, and in this context, I think that this really did push forward the story and gave us a lot of character development development for the future episodes of The Bad Batch. Now, I only found myself disappointed with one little tad bit thing, and this is literally just me being a little nitpicky, I guess, and it's the fact that we haven't seen Omega have any Force powers. I mean, that's really the only other reason I can see that they are keeping her around this much, and by that the Bad Batch haven't dropped her off into a safer planet quite yet. Other than that, there's all these other factors that they haven't dropped her off, like, yes, she's being hunted, yes, she's pretty much one of them, seeing that she is one of the mutated clones as well, so there's many factors and reasons that play into that as well. Of course, I'll catch you guys in the next episode breakdown next week, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss it. Check out our Instagram, Unofficial Star Wars, for more Star Wars related content, and until next time, the Force will be with you, always. Peace out.